Alright, so now that the outside is finished on all the exterior sides, today's video we will be putting on the front roof panel and we'll do the electrical wiring with the tape wiring kit. So stay tuned and see how we do all that. First step we're going to do today is put the front roof panel on to our building. And since I'm going to put a black roof treatment on my roof itself on the outside, I've actually primed this with a flat black paint. And I've also gone through and drawn lines about every inch all the way across. That will be my roof placement lines. Well, they kind of show up on camera. Those will be important later, and it's easier to do this step while the roof is still on the table. I've also painted the inside white, and then I used the same dirty water wash that I used on the sides of my building, and I didn't want a glaring white roof sticking out on my eaves, so I just did that there. This is white so we can put ceiling paper over it. Now we need to make sure that the building is still going to fit the roof, and that the tabs are going to go into the little holes. And I'm going to have to, alright, that one will need to be trimmed. And this is normal that you'll need to trim your tabs up a little bit. So let me get that one trimmed off. That's really the only one that's not working. So just use a knife. Let's make sure I've got the right part in the camera. And just kind of, and this is why we want to make sure if there's any roofing down in there. So this is trimmed, this should fit now, so I'm going to run a bead of glue along here and along here, and I'm actually going to use my Fast Grab Tacky rather than Carpenter's wood glue, because this might show a little bit underneath the eaves when the house is done, and I don't want the yellow Carpenter's glue showing. Just run a bead of glue on both sides. And you know where your wall is going because it lines up with the tab slots, with the slots for the tabs. And I can wipe off any extra glue when I get done. Alright, so we have glue. So now we have to line our house up with those holes. I'm going to push it down to make sure it seats in there. And now we need to work this side out so that the tabs go into the holes. And now it's firmly pushed down. I'm just run my finger along there to get rid of as much glue as I can. And when this sets up, we can go on to our next step. So now we will start the wiring. So let's go over what we need. First, let me introduce you to our copper tape wire. I'm using copper tape wire. I've used it on several structures, and if you're careful and make sure all your connections work, I haven't had problems with it. I know some people don't like tape wire, they use round wire. I've never used that, so I can't really show you how to do that. I'll show you a few tricks as we go, but here's a roll of copper tape wire. One hint, never set it down without clipping it, otherwise it just unrolls all over the place. To get the electricity to your house, first you need a transformer. You need to buy a transformer that's the right size for your project. This one will do up to 16 bulbs, which means we really shouldn't run it for less than about 7 or 8. 9 or 10 would be better. and I've got about that many planned in my structure. Attached to this, I have already connected my lead-in wire because I wanted to test to make sure that this all worked before we started the project. You just loosen these screws and stick these little things on there. The lead-in wire has a switch, so we can switch the wire on and off. The end of the lead-in wire has these little prongs on it. Those go into your junction splice. Your junction splice fastens onto the side of your dollhouse, your miniature building. It pokes, these two brads poke one into each wire, each tape wire, and that's how you bring the electricity from your wall outlet through the transformer, through the lead wire, through the junction splice into your dollhouse. So those are all really important things. Now, to make the connections between the wires when you run tape wire, because unless you're doing one continuous strip, you need to make connections. And that's done with these little 1/8 inch brads. I've got more in here. Got lots of them in here. Those are, you'll have extra because they tend to jump around and run off from you. In order to make the holes, you can use a couple of things. You can use a pilot hole punch. A lot of times I just use a push pin, a regular little, like you use on the bulletin board. It works great to get your hole started. To hold on to those little brads, I have 3 tools, and I seem to go back and forth between them. I've got this special little holder. It's got a little slot for the brad. You can push it into the wall with that. I also use my needle nose pliers and my tweezers equally as much. I also have you also need a screwdriver to attach the junction splice to your house. As we make the connections, we need one of these. This is a test light. As we make connections, every connection, we are going to push this into our wiring and make sure that this lights up with the power turned on. If it doesn't, we need to go back and see what we did wrong. As long as we test each and every connection as we go, it relieves a lot of headaches down the road. You need to lay out your wiring in your house. I like to find something, since most of our outlets in our real houses are about 1 foot off the floor, I like to find something that the combination makes my pencil point about 1 inch off the floor, which for me today, that's this nail file and a pencil. Also, a ruler, which has escaped me. For making straight lines also. You'll need scissors to cut your tape wire as you go. And that's really about it. I've got my extra drill in case I need the extra drill to get things in. That's really about all it takes, other than just a lot of patience, because this is a kind of a tedious job, but it's so worth it when you can turn the lights on and your building lights up. So let me clear my table off, get my building back up here, and we'll get started. Alright, so now I have marked the bottom floor, and we're on the bottom floor now. This is my tape wire. I ran a line on that side, and also one, I can't see the camera screen, I'm hoping you can see, there on that side. And I ran it around the outside, and I actually put a little block of wood here on the side of my building. When I'm all done, I will actually paint this and cover this up with something so it doesn't show. The transformer is now plugged into the outlet, and let's make sure it works. Now I'm using my old test probe instead of the new one I got, because the new one just didn't show up at all. It was really hard to see. So let's turn the switch on, and we have to get, see if I can get it angled towards the camera when it's actually on. There. So that's lit up. So now we'll carefully plug this into the house firmly, and let's move the camera, and let's plug it in, see if I can make it light up. I'm in a bad angle here to try and get this. Okay, there. See, it lights up. You gotta kind of push on it a little bit and get it at the right angle, but it lit up for a second. Hopefully it showed up on the camera. I'll know when I look at the video. Alright, so now we need to connect this run of tape wire with this run of tape wire. So let me turn the camera off. I'm going to reposition things and I will show you how we do that. Alright, so I decided to show you how to do the wiring on the top floor rather than the bottom because there's just no way to do that. So let's go ahead and plug this in and I'll show you. I've got electricity. See? Yeah, it shows the wiring is all wired at the bottom. I'll kind of lift it up. See, all of those wires are connected. So now let's run a piece of wire there. So first I'm going to kind of measure, and I know I need about this much. So I'm going to clip this back together. Like that. I'm going to stay with blue up. And run your finger along it so that you've got a good contact. So now we have the wire laying there. So now I need to find my punch, and I'm going to have to reset this now, and I'll be right back. All right, it's really important to unplug your wiring from your junction splice before you start messing with your wiring. All right, let's see if I can get this. So I'm just going to use this little punch and punch a hole, and that's copper to copper. Now blue line to blue line, just like that. Now, hopefully I can do this and we can both see what we're doing. I'm finding today that the pliers seem to be working better for me. I'm just taking the little brad in the end of the pliers and pushing down in that hole. The other one. Alright, let's get it moved around. So there they are. Now I've been tapping them just gently with a hammer to kind of seat them down in there. So let's see if that worked. Let's see, make sure this is on. That's on, and that's on. That's really all there is to it. It's just a process of laying the wire, punching the hole, and putting the brad in. So let's turn the light switch off, unplug the junction splice, and now we are going to connect this wall to this wall. So we need another piece of tape, and this will also, this is going to do two things. This will be kind of a backup. If I connect all of my wiring both across the bottom and the top, it's kind of a like insurance policy if one of these connections comes loose. And also I need a wire across here and here to hook the wires, the lights for the ceiling to when I get ready to do that. So we just lay this down. I've got my line in there. Let's see if I can turn this so that you can kind of see. And I cut that way too long, but that's okay. Extra wire is not going to hurt anything. And there we go. So now we have a wire here. Now it's the same process. I'll do the same thing I did here on this one, and I'll be back. All right, so now I've got this one going, so let's run this piece of wire here. And then we only have this one and this one left is all I have left that I'm going to do today. It's really super important to not try to connect things while you've got your junction splice hooked up to your wire. Because if you would accidentally hit both wires at the same time, you could short everything out and really screw things up. Besides that, you could get I suppose you could get a minor, you know, a mild electric shock off of this too. You are playing with electricity, although it's not very strong electricity. So let's see if I can show you how this works. See if I can do this and have you be able to see better. There we go. Right there maybe. Oops. Right there. Copper to copper, blue to blue. Once again, we pick up, and I like to lay my brads pretty close to where I'm going to work with them. And I found if I'm having a day, like if I start working on this and things just go really, really wrong for a while, just walk away. This takes some patience, and if you're stressed or, you know, being all thumbs right then, it's best to just walk away because this is kind of fiddly. The side of the pliers works really well to get these started. Once they're started pretty well, oops, that one bent over. That was not ready to push in. It's easiest if you pick these up so the point of the brad is hanging past your pliers. Now, tap this gently. You don't want to tap very hard, especially not on the floor. Let's see if that worked. Turn the wire on. So much. Nope, I'm going to have to move this one. This one bent over. That's what I was afraid of. This is why you need lots of brads, because sometimes they go in crooked. Plug myself. Let's see by straightening that out. Let's make sure we've got that's not on. Okay, that's on, and that's on. Do it this end. There. We have light. So now I just have one more piece of electrical tape to put in, and that's all for today. Next week we'll start wallpapering, and we'll actually start with the ceiling paper, wallpaper, and then ceiling paper and wallpaper down here. So talk to you next week. Bye.